Welcome back to another episode of Rejected Movie Ideas, the show that takes justifiably abandoned 2-hour-long movie ideas and squishes them down into about 5 minutes of snarky commentary. Although, to be fair, I don't think that this week's rejected movie idea would have fared much worse than the movie that actually came out in its place. You see, for every big-budget superhero movie that comes out, there are a dozen versions that never make it past the third or fourth draft. And in the case of the brain hemorrhage-inducing film that was Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern, there's an equally hated, but much more fun, Jack Black version of DC's greenest superhero. Now, to understand what Warner Brothers was going for back in 2004, you have to understand that they were smack dab in the middle of what history will remember as the golden age of black, a time frame that comprises most of Jack's best work, roughly from 2000's High Fidelity to 2008's Tropic Thunder, cutting off right before 2009's Year One and Gulliver's Travels. And don't worry if you don't even remember those last two. Jack hasn't thought of them since he cashed the checks. But what Black does remember is how close he became to becoming a real-life superhero, even if it was gonna be in a straight-up parody. You see, 2004 was a full year before Christopher Nolan invented the gritty crime superhero genre with Batman Begins, so Warner Brothers still wasn't sure about what to do with their roster of DC characters. Until one day, presumably after watching some reruns of the Super Friends, one WB executive said to another, "You know who'd look really ridiculous on the big screen? Aquaman? No, the Green Lantern, played by Jack Black." A couple lines of celebratory nose sugar later, and the Warner Brother executives commissioned Robert Smigel to pen the ludicrous script. And in case you don't know who Robert Smigel is, well, he is the puppeteer behind the Triumph the Insult comic dog segments made popular on Conan O'Brien's late night shows, and now the co-star of a horrible sitcom alongside Jack McBrayer. And why was the future of this potentially box office smashing franchise placed in the hands of a puppeteer? Well, because drugs. Don't do them. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Smigel said, "What appealed to me about it on a comedic level was that, in order to be a superhero, this requires no physical skill or talent at all. It requires owning this ring. Automatically, that's a comedic premise for me to poop on." Yeah, that was my triumph. Now, when you put it that way, Smigel actually makes a whole lot of sense. After all, if you look at the current Justice League roster, Green Lantern's power of green imagination is still the most ridiculous skill set in the group, followed closely by Aquaman's ability to ride fish like they were ponies. So it's now the year 2006. There's a script ready and an A-list comedic star anxious to don the green spandex, when all of a sudden, and probably due to the fact that drugs do wear off, a couple of Warner Brother executives got cold feet and scrapped the whole project. Now, as we look at the autopsy of the corpse that is Jack Black's Green Lantern, we can see several of the fatal blows that ended up killing the project. One was the fact that Nolan's gritty reimagining of the Batman franchise worked well enough at the box office for Warner Brothers to immediately commission a sequel. All of a sudden, a comedic take on a superhero didn't seem that funny anymore, and the studio started steering the Green Lantern movie towards the much more serious galactic turd fest that became the Ryan Reynolds version. Also, the fact that Smigel's script leaked on the internet and was immediately destroyed by trolls didn't help one bit. I'm a huge Peanuts fan, so if I hear they were doing a new Peanuts with Jack Black as Charlie Brown, I'd be mad too, and I'd be twice as mad if I heard that I was writing it. And the writer wasn't the only one disappointed by Warner Brothers' decision. Jack Black was also pretty bummed out about the whole ordeal, and offered equally heartfelt answers to the press whenever they'd ask about the canceled project. "I was gonna be capturing bad guys with green giant prophylactics. Funny stuff." That was my Jack Black. But worry not, for the true enemies of this project, namely studio executives and anonymous Reddit trolls, were properly punished a few years later when they were collectively forced to watch Ryan Reynolds finally don the green suit, making them wish they had never spent all that time and energy fantasizing about a dumb Green Lantern movie to begin with.